So one of the things I want to talk about with this, there's going to be some yes or no answers. There's no right answer to any of these questions, but it might tell you that you're wrong because Kahoot, when you're doing true or false, that was the only way we could do it. So there, don't let that discourage your answers, or this is just for discussion purposes. And again, I mentioned that we're career counselors for the Arts and Humanities Division, and I wouldn't be a great career counselor if I didn't tell you to go check out our website and blog at careerartsandhumanities.org. Again, I just want to stress the purpose for the questions we are asking today is due to the awareness of the connection between how each of us navigate diversity, equity, and inclusivity concerns in relation to our identity and our relative power within an institution. By contemplating these answers, it will allow us to consider what power relations each of us might have to navigate as we address equity and inclusion on our own campuses. Again, remember there are no right or wrong answers when it comes to your answers. I will let you know that we're going to, most of the questions, except for the yes and no ones at the end, will be have you type them in. We don't want to make any predeterminations on how you identify when it comes to gender, ethnicity, nationality, etc. So we're going to let you type that in, and it's going to give you a short amount of time though. And I apologize, but since we have like 20 of these demographic questions and how small amount of time, I want to make sure that I let you know that. And if you miss one, it's okay. So what is your gender? And it's kind of nice that we are all online anymore because we've gotten a lot quicker about typing. Fantastic. I love that we have a variety and of individuals in the room. So I'm having trouble seeing my screen to go to the next question. So if I keep leaning, I'm not dancing, just trying to find the screen. I'm just waiting for Kahoot to let me show. There we go. Fantastic. Not only a variety of ethnicity, but a variety of perspectives that we all need to value. Though I do like to dance the music. My students find it embarrassing. Wow, that's fantastic. A lot from the US, Canada, Germany, Peruvian. Oh, this is fantastic. This is a question that always excites me around current members. Wow, California, Illinois, Texas, Colorado, Pennsylvania, Florida, the Midwest, Northeast, everywhere, all over the Vermont. I love that it was in all caps. Shout out to Vermont, Georgia, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Louisiana, New Jersey. Fantastic. A lot of Texas. I'm in Washington, but I originate from Wyoming.
The next question, Jamie, somebody has asked if we would read the questions out loud. So I'll do that as you go ahead. So are or were you a first, second, third, and so on generation student?
Yeah, and that one can be tricky in itself because I was a first generation student. My daughter was second, but she was already in college when I graduated, so she still felt like a first generation. Oh, I accidentally hit skip. I really apologize.
The next question is, what is your academic rank? For example, faculty, tenure track, lecturer, staff, grad, undergrad, postdoc, etc.
We have a huge variety. I love that we have a grad student in here today too. And a great balance of staff and faculty. I see a lot of tenure track and associate professors. Oh, we even have an undergrad in here. That's wonderful. Not seeing, oh, I do see a couple of faculty.
Yeah, tenured in. What type of institution are you from? For example, four-year, community college, etc.
You all are fast. A lot of four-year public institutions, community colleges, private universities, but it looks like the majority are four-year.
What college does your discipline fall under? For example, College of the Arts, College of the Sciences, Arts and Humanities, Education, etc.
Humanities, creative arts, engineering, ag and bioresources, sciences, undergraduate research office, social sciences, and humanities. I love seeing the variety because I think one of the myths about Kerr is that it's mainly sciences, but you can see we have a healthy balance in the room from a variety of colleges. So welcome.
Even have one library person, library faculty.
Oh, fantastic. And academic affairs too. Sorry, I also find it interesting, and that's one of the things, like at my university, you have arts and humanities, but I know that there's other universities where there's arts and sciences. So I love the balance between universities.
What department do you teach or study within?
And this slide photo is just for you, Gretchen.
My little terrier is not going to be on the Zoom. So we're disrupted by barking.
Just in case, I wanted him to know we thought he was an academic as well. A lot of biology, chemistry, ooh, philosophy, psychology, mathematics. None but your staff, but you interact probably with all these different disciplines. Undergraduate student research analysis, Office of Undergraduate Research. Again, you're dealing with a lot of all of the disciplines. So that's it. One of the things that I loved working in an undergraduate research office was getting to collaborate with all the different disciplines on campus. And again, I love that we have library and digital studies. And bioethics, that's fantastic. Leadership, geology. So these are true and false questions.
So the first question, at your institution, do you feel connected to peers?
That's wonderful to hear. And I know that that went fast. I apologize to everybody. So we'll keep moving forward. Oh, sorry.
At your institution, do you feel valued for research?
Kind of split. And I get that these are a lot faster and I apologize, but I want you just what you immediately think of.
At your institution, do you feel valued for teaching or as a student? Depending on whether you're a faculty or primarily a learner. At your institution, do you feel valued for service? So
Wow.
someone indicates that in the chat, not all of these questions are applicable to staff, and I think that's an excellent observation. I appreciate it. It may depend on what kind of a staff position, whether it's a staff position that involves mentoring.
I think that that's true and that's interesting. I know that when I worked in the Office of Undergraduate Research, when there was service on committees or helping with our symposium, we had a lot of staff reach out and asked us to reach out to their supervisors for a way that because they said, I work with the students, I want to be involved with the campus, and they would like those opportunities for service as well. Yeah. And so I think that's really important to have that voice here today.
Yeah. Do you feel supported by your institution or leadership? Do you feel included in research opportunities?
You guys are getting really fast. And I'm not stopping to discuss all these because it'll come up in our next exercise.
At your institution, do you feel satisfied with professional interactions? Do you believe men and women faculty receive equal treatment in your department or program? Do you believe white and racial minority faculty receive equal treatment in your department or program? Do you believe domestic and immigrant faculty receive equal treatment in your department or program? Do you believe arts and humanities at your institution are valued in comparison to STEM programs? Does your department chair or head consult your opinion in decision making? And this is just a question about whether you are consulted. Does your department chair or head value your opinion in decision making? Do you feel comfortable sharing concerns about decisions to your chair or head? Do your colleagues value your opinion in departmental decision making? At your institution, do you feel the departmental decision-making processes are fair? At your institution, do you feel the department decision-making processes are transparent? Are you frequently asked to take on departmental leadership roles?
I just lost my screen. Can you also see it?
We're on the scoreboard.
Okay.
There, at your institution, do barriers to university service exist for you?
So thank you so much for all of your answers and how quick you were. And now I'm going to turn it over to Gretchen.
Great. So thank you so much for answering these introductory questions for us. This will help us get a read on your position and the positions of the group collectively as we go through these situations where we're thinking about potential barriers to inclusion, thinking about our own and one another's positions of relative privilege or inequality within an institution, and factors that might influence the way you react to situations or the options that you might have to respond to engagement. Sorry, should we go to the next slide or?
Yeah, sorry, it was fading out just a little bit there.
No problem. So first, we'd like you to think about defining diversity in a couple of words or less. What terms come to mind for you, or what associations do you make with the term diversity?
And there's like 3 seconds left. Sorry.
This is really just about kind of gut level answers.
Yes.
Yeah. Inclusion, empty promise, all inclusive, difference, mixture, variation, range of background. So most of us are thinking of diversity in terms of, many of us are thinking of diversity in terms of who is in the room and not necessarily what relative access they have. Define equity in a few words or less.
And you have like 15 seconds to do so. First thing.
Even, creating opportunity, resources, results focused, fair treatment, absence of barriers. A lot of people are thinking about questions of fairness and whether things are fair, whether people have opportunities or access or representation. So thinking about equity in terms of what you have access to or what opportunities you have to move forward. Hope everyone can hear me. I've been having some bandwidth issues. And Allison and Jamie, feel free to jump in anytime that you feel like you want to offer something.
You're doing fantastic.
Oh,
sorry.
So now we're going to define inclusivity in a few words or less.
In like 12 seconds. No pressure there.
And we're trying to think about this not in terms of like pop quiz in class, but in terms of kind of word association or what kind of lens you individually have on that term. What kind of feelings are called up when you hear that term? Participating, belonging, making space, all voices heard, all in, open, intentional. I think that's really great. Thinking in terms of race and ethnicity, thinking openness, welcoming, bringing all in, active including. So this one, I think most of us are associating inclusivity more with having an ability to participate meaningfully in a conversation, having an equal opportunity to steer a conversation, feeling like you're not only tolerated, but you're welcomed, and people really want to hear your perspective and your contributions and hear everybody's contributions and perspective equally. So, which is obviously a really different set of associations than for just diversity, which being, is one person I recall said it's really about numbers. In terms, not just who's there, but who can actually participate in ways that have impact.
I love that. So we'll turn it over to Allison.
Yeah. So before we move on, we'd like you to keep in mind how you personally envision diversity, equity, inclusion. And what we're going to provide in the next couple of screens are some real world student, faculty, and staff vignettes from various institutions. We've removed identifiers for anonymity purposes. We chose to use concrete events, as most of us are used to discussing diversity, equity, and inclusivity more abstractly, right, from theory. But providing real life scenarios we thought would be beneficial in assisting all of us in thinking how we might handle these types of scenarios. So if they come up in our professional lives, we have tools to be prepared to navigate them because we've thought about them in a real way. So I'd like to go with the first vignette. And first thing we're going to ask you to do is think about whether the vignette that we read out and show on the screen will be under the category of diversity, equity, or inclusivity. Which one of these or three or any combination of these come to mind with you with each scenario? The second thing that we're asking you to think about is what factors do you feel could be relevant, or what questions might you need to ask the individuals involved, and what actions you might take. And then feel free to type a reply once the timer is finished. Feel free to raise your virtual hand and we'll call on you to use your mic, okay? So we've got a couple of different things that we're going to, in different ways that we're going to respond, but we're actually just after your participation and hoping that you will do that in a way that feels comfortable for you. So the first thing we're going to do is put the first vignette up on the screen. And I'm going to read this aloud for you so you make sure that you can hear it. Your research student, who is your academic advisee, has documented academic accommodations on file related to panic attacks and anxiety. The accommodations allow for extended time as needed on written assignments, and the university's Office of Accessibility Services sends faculty confidential communication outlining each student's ADA mandated accommodations at the beginning of every term. Your research student advisee approaches you very upset toward the end of one semester because your senior colleague severely docked their score on a major assignment in a class required for graduation. The student had indicated to your senior colleague that they required extended time and submitted the assignment 3 days after standard deadline as their university accommodations allow. The senior colleague wrote on the student's paper, giving you extra time without penalty would be unfair to students who submit work on time. Out of the categories of diversity, equity, and inclusivity, think about which are coming to mind for you with that scenario. So we have a lot of folks that see that as an equity issue, some inclusivity, equity and inclusivity, and even diversity. So you see it as encompassing any combination of those three. I like that. What other factors do you feel could be relevant? Like what questions might you ask the individuals involved? And what actions might you take? This would be a great opportunity if anyone wants to raise their virtual hand. I can't see everybody all at once, of course.
And I can always go back and put the vignette back up on the screen, I think, too, if that helps.
Okay, and Chrissy and Angelis has her hand raised. I'm sorry.
Hi, it's okay. It's Angeles, like Los Angeles.
Okay.
I'm just not sure if it was mentioned in the previous slide, but was the senior colleague aware that the student needed accommodations or no?
That's a very good question. And a question in the chat follows along that same line, like, did the senior colleague take the time to learn about the ADA accommodation? Is there anyone else who has a raised hand or would like to throw another question that you might ask in that situation? Someone else wondered if the colleague actually read the accommodation letter. Be an advocate for equity. Use this as a teaching moment for the senior faculty. Let me just say to that particular one, I am an assistant professor. I don't know personally if I would feel comfortable using this as a teaching moment for a senior faculty member. So that also plays into the role of how we handle these situations that happen.
Excellent point.
Yeah, great. A couple of other great points in the chat. One person says, is this a pattern of behavior in this? That's Claire Swigert.
Oh, great. Excellent.
Did the student advocate for themselves to the Department of Care? Also, for the student, is it very much a teaching moment, or is it something very serious for them? It is very much not a teaching moment. It is very serious for them. So one person's teaching moment in a position of greater power might be another person's life-changing problem that could impact their graduation or their future.
And also the question that comes out, did the student advocate for themselves? And I would say that if I, as an assistant professor, a colleague of a senior, of the senior colleague would find it difficult, how are we expecting students to be advocates for themselves when that power differential is astronomical compared to a colleague? And I would feel uncomfortable. Now, whether or not that would be because I am also of a marginalized community, I'm second generation, all of those things would also play into my comfort level. But I think sometimes we expect students to be very straightforward and aggressive about speaking up for themselves, and we don't always take into consideration that there is issues with power there that are very real and can feel as a threat.
Mm-hmm. If the student is first gen or another population, they might not know how to navigate college systems and might struggle, especially if they're not upperclassmen. They're lower. Someone else had put in the chat about the value of a faculty member coaching or assisting the student in navigating an academic grievance process or whatever kind of process for dispute that might exist within your university.
So I like the comment that as an instructor, I don't worry about the hierarchy. I'm at the bottom of the pond here, but advocacy for students is a duty, and it is. But I would throw out as a diversity facilitator myself, that's one of the things that I do on the side, but that we also think about as situations come up that we have to decide being an ally should cost something. It should cost something to stand up for somebody else at risk to yourself. But we also have to decide what risk we're going to be willing to take. And that may not be a popular thing to think about, but it is something that has to happen. Are we prepared to lose our job? Are we prepared to not get a promotion? Are we prepared? What are we prepared to do to be allies? It is a duty, but I think we also have to be realistic and say that there are difficult decisions that have to be made around when and where we're going to stand up. And the reality of it is that not all of us stand up all the time in our roles as allies. I think that that's unfortunately true. I would love to say that I'm going to be the best person all the time, but I do get nervous and I do get afraid. And I may not be the best advocate all the time for my students if I'm afraid of something. And sometimes it takes me a while to work through that. And I just have to admit that to myself.
Very impactful.
So several people have brought up the question of involving a chair or
I'm losing you.
Several people have brought up the question of involving a chair or a dean, as long as the chair is not the senior colleague in question, which could potentially be a way to leverage a resource in a position of greater power than yourself, if you are an untenured or not tenure track faculty member, if you have other factors that could use the instructor in a position of less power. That might be a way to involve an ally. Does the Office of Accessibility have any role in advocacy? I think that's a great question.
Absolutely. Well, let's not stop here because we do have some other vignettes, but that is a great start.
Fantastic start.
Jamie, do you want to go ahead to the next vignette?
Yes, now we're going to go to one that is directed more towards faculty, and it's making me pull this all up again. Sorry.
No worries.
So with the next vignette, there is an annual research symposium held at your university. The symposium consists of presentations from every college, including undergraduate and graduate students. Each year, faculty are nominated for Research Mentor of the Year. Along with the honor, a $1,000 monetary award is included. Despite being a lecturer for the arts and humanities, you have been fortunate enough to be nominated for the award 5 years in a row. Also, only tenured faculty serve on the award committee that chooses the award winner. During your 5th nominated year, you learn that you won Faculty Research Mentor of the Year. You receive your award in the mail, but you do not receive the monetary award. You inquire about your monetary award and learn you will not be receiving it. You're reminded that you are a non-tenure track faculty and mentoring research students is not in your contract. Therefore, you are ineligible for the monetary gains that come with the award. So again, think about out of those categories what this might represent, if any, on diversity, equity, and inclusivity, or even if you think of something else that comes to mind, think about what other factors you, after we do the word association, what other factors you feel could be relevant, what questions might you ask for the individuals involved, and what actions might you take or offer advice you'd offer to your colleague. So out of the categories of diversity, equity, and inclusivity, think about which are coming to mind for you with that scenario. So equity, inclusivity, lack of inclusivity, I see. Both equity and inclusivity. A title shouldn't hold you back, but it does. Pay and status and respects, it's equity. Inclusivity, directly excluding lecturer faculty from success in research. Equity, inclusivity of all faculty. So, and a few of you even said all three. So with that in mind, I know that Gretchen and Allison can see the chat, so I can't, but I will put the vignette back up and see if you have anything you would like to add about this vignette. Or comments.
Yeah, or just information you would want if you were navigating that situation or counseling a colleague was. What would you want to know in order to better understand and move forward? If someone can be nominated, they should be eligible for all aspects of the award, including the money. They're pointing out that in these kinds of distinctions ought to be made in a nominating process.
And then like think about the power differential again, like we talked about. If this faculty pushes it, could they be risking their own position? And will then that financial gain cost them another one?
One person says, as the faculty member in question, I would definitely take this up the chain of command. This is someone who has clearly made an impact on students for 5 years in a row. Maybe the situation catalyst.
Another statement is, this seems so cruel that the faculty who are least compensated are then denied the money award that comes with this honor.
Mm-hmm. If mentoring was not in the contract, why did the faculty member have mentees? Excellent point.
I know in the institution I worked at, a lot of faculty, or I guess non-tenure track, will do mentoring on their own just to help build up their CV so they have the opportunity to apply for those tenure positions. So similar to service as staff, that staff doesn't do a lot of service. Well, that's also the case with a lot of non-tenure track jobs. But in order to then move up, you're supposed to have that service and research on your CVs. So it's kind of a catch-22.
And one of the things that a lot of folks are, are pointing out is that all faculty and university staff end up doing a lot of things that are not formally in our contract and more than we're FYI, we're getting a 10-minute warning to remind everyone.
Then I am going to move us ahead to Gretchen's.
Sure. This has been great, everybody. The conversation in the chat has been fantastic.
And please know at the end, I am going to have another link to send out. So I will stop sharing the screen a few minutes before so that I can put that in the chat for you all, since I can't access it.
Yeah, we really appreciate all of the feedback and the perspectives from people in different institutional contexts, personal positions, life experiences, and we want to keep that going and people want to keep dialogue. So I will read vignette C, or final one for today. A student who is set to graduate at the close of the semester contacts you several days before the final paper is due, indicating they are bedridden with COVID-19 and will do their best to get the final research essay completed in time, but they wanted you to know that it may not be their best work. The student has never requested any extensions, and their attendance and participation have been reliable. The student has previously shared that they are partially self-supporting through work as a restaurant host. You are aware they live off campus and do not have a strong family support structure. Final course grades are due in 1 week. So what we're going to think first about what categories this falls into, whether we would think of it in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion, all three, and then we'll circle back to questions we might want to answer.
While we're doing that, I think someone put, Ava Howard put something that's really, really important. She says, I think acknowledging the feelings these situations create for people is really critical. No matter what caused the issue, we should not ignore the issue and should address the structural problems. But I think first acknowledging the impact it has on an individual, that is so powerful. Because sometimes we get caught up in the structure and the actual event, and we forget about the people that are actually dealing with the issue.
That is so powerful.
Thank you so much for that, Eva. So we have a lot of people thinking in terms of equity. Some people are thinking in terms of inclusion. Some people are saying all three. Diversity. Yeah, I mean, I think thinking about diversity, particularly in terms of where we have a significant number of self-supporting students who are not off-campus students or not. Some of us are at private residential liberal arts institutions where that is rare, and that person will be especially supported to participate. Some people might be at an institution where this kind of situation might be common, or where most or all students live off-campus. So we want to move, we have about 7 minutes left. We want to move to allowing people to think about what kinds of questions they would want to ask to address this situation, what information they would need, or what actions they might want to take.
And while you're doing that, I'm going to put it to the last slide just so we have that up on the screen, if that's okay.
Yeah, please, thank you.
sorry, just ignore this. And if you have comments in the chat, you can. It's one thing about Kahoot. We had prepared a lot depending on the time, so we wanted to make sure we have plenty of material for you.
There's a great dialogue going on in the chat too.
Would you like to share any of that? Well, I just put that.
Yeah. So folks are already saying, so with regard to the prior one, acknowledging the feelings of these situations, there's a follow-up on that about taking ownership of the negative impact on personal morale in terms of institutions where these situations take place. So some thoughts on this one. Folks are saying, thinking about giving the student extension to the point of asking the registrar's office for an extension and submission of the final grade. Maybe if it's possible to get a medical extension due to COVID-19. So some problem solving there. I imagine that this is impacting students more generally. So I would recommend that they reach out to the dean of students for assistance. Yeah, and that's so some universities will have a central resource like that where a student can make contact with the dean of students office who can help them manage that situation across classes. Another comment, this is clearly a good student. The situation is beyond their control and it is our control to assign a grade. I bet their work will be better than they expect anyway. Yeah, and I think, I mean, that's a really good perspective, right? If we did frame this in terms of a situation where you don't have to worry about the quality of the work or the personal responsibility that you normally get from this student. But, you know, bedridden with COVID-19, many people's ability to perform will be highly impacted. I am a recent college graduate and working as professional staff. Students go through a lot that sometimes faculty are not aware of, and we often do not know who to talk to or how to advocate for ourselves without feeling inferior or a burden to others, speaking from personal experience as well. So just kind of wrapping that up, and I want to make sure Allison and Jamie have a chance to jump in too, wrapping that up, thinking about this particular vignette in terms of a moment when you as a faculty member can maybe help a student understand what resources might be available to them that they're not aware of, beyond just pushing through. And also ensuring that the student has access to medical care, just asking those kinds of basic questions. COVID was debilitating for me physically. I'd ask the student to take an average of their past work. So different ways to kind of problem solve. Allison and Jamie.
I just want to throw out that this was a little bit easier because the student was a good student to begin with. But what about our first and second gens who are already struggling? And they may not show up as great students. They may be doing, they may have all of these other things that are impacting them that we don't know about, as brought up in the chat. And they don't look like a good student on paper. And so how do we navigate that giving of grace and mercy?
And that even goes past this type of scenario. I think sometimes that's the type of student that also gets looked over. We're bringing into our research team and mentoring. They may not have seen what doing research is before, but with proper guidance and mentorship and bringing in peers and all of those things, we can take that from a scenario like this and apply it to their regular classroom life so that we're helping propel them to success and critical thinking and their professional careers. We want to get them beyond the class and get them to graduation, get them to the career, get them to be future researchers, and quit, not just look at their first generation and what they don't bring to the table, but what they could if we were there supporting them. I hope that was okay. I also, we had just a few scenarios submitted to us for use today, but we're sure that a lot of you have scenarios that you've experienced personally or ones that you have been shared with you. So as we mentioned earlier, we're planning on sending a survey out to all crew members next fall based on our research and also on what we've learned here today. The Survey Monkey link, I'll put it in the chat really quick, but we would appreciate after this presentation if you would just take the time to anonymously fill out a short survey for us to aid in our work next year, and also give us any feedback from today. The survey will also include a couple questions on the feedback, but after you answer the questions on the survey, you will be also given the opportunity to include a scenario that you may want to contribute to our vignettes in the fall. There will be also an opportunity for you to suggest any further demographic questions or things that you think that we might have overlooked today. So I'd really, really appreciate if you do that, and I'll quit sharing so I can put that in the chat, and I'll let Allison and Gretchen finish this up. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for attending and for participating so honestly and openly. It's a joy.
Thank you again. We really appreciate the broad diversity of perspectives, and we take the opportunity to learn from you as we move forward with this process on trying to help remove barriers to going.
And I'm trying to get it over there really fast, everyone. So thank you. And I think that's the largest Kahoot that I have done, but I use Kahoots a lot in teaching online because the students really like that engagement. So thank you for hanging in there with us. And I love the discussion. I wish I could see all the chats. So excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Jamie.